I'm Joel Jorgensen. Today I'm going to talk to you about attracting hummingbirds to your backyard here in Nebraska. Now, I occasionally hear from folks who get really frustrated because they've read something, they've heard something, they put out a hummingbird feeder, they plant some flowers, and they never see a hummingbird. What's really important here in Nebraska is to understand what species that occur here, where they occur, and when they occur, so that you know how to maximize your effort or when to apply it. Nebraska has only a few hummingbird species that occur regularly, and these can be divided into an eastern hummingbird and the western hummingbirds. The eastern hummingbird is the ruby-throated, the typical species of the eastern United States. Here in Nebraska, ruby-throats are a spring and fall migrant in about the eastern half or so of Nebraska, and they also breed in summer in mature eastern deciduous woodlands along the Missouri and lower Platte River valleys, and occasionally elsewhere in about the eastern third of Nebraska. Ruby-throats migrate quickly through the state in spring during mid-April through May, but their fall migration is much more casual and leisurely and starts about the 1st of August and extends into early October. There are three western hummingbird species, the rufous, the broad-tailed, and occasionally a calliope pops into the state that migrate in the western panhandle, primarily only in fall from about late July through September. Now, if you're in the middle western section of Nebraska, hummingbirds may occur here on occasion, but unfortunately, you're in the part of Nebraska where hummingbirds are the least common. So now that we know what species we have here in Nebraska and when they occur and where they occur, we can now target our efforts for the specific times when hummingbirds will be around. There are various types of hummingbird feeders that can be found at garden centers, hardware stores, and bird feeding specialty stores. But my advice is don't go cheap. Cheap feeders can leak and just cause headaches associated with durability. This is a cheap feeder I bought a few years ago, and you can see this hummingbird is actually feeding on nectar that is leaking from the feeding orifice and dribbling off the side. Leaky feeders will only attract wasps and bees, and hummingbirds just don't get along all that well with wasps and bees. Another pest to consider are ants. Ants will cover your feeder if they can reach the nectar source. An easy remedy to this situation is having an ant moat. An ant moat goes between your hummingbird feeder and whatever you're hanging your hummingbird feeder from. You fill it with water, ants can't access the nectar. It's as simple as that. Some hummingbird feeders have an ant moat built in. Either way, you need to have an ant moat to keep ants from accessing your feeder. Now, making the nectar is easy. There's no need to purchase nectar mixes such as this that have red dye, and in fact red dye is not necessary at all anyways. It won't help attract more hummingbirds to your feeder, and in fact the red dye could even be harmful to hummingbirds. So if you have pre-made mixes, throw them out. Just boil some water and mix 4 parts water with 1 part sugar to make nectar. Once you've boiled it to kill any bacteria that might be harmful to hummingbirds, and mixed in the sugar, throw it in the refrigerator, keep it for a while. This also brings up another point of keeping your feeders clean and making sure you clean them, rinse them out regularly, every few days or so, to make sure nasty things aren't growing on the feeder that could potentially harm our feathered friend. Another tip if you have more than one feeder is to separate them and keep them out of the line of sight of one another. Hummingbirds are territorial, particularly the rufous hummingbird, and they will guard feeders, chasing other hummingbirds away that are trying to feed. Separating feeders will give more hummingbirds a chance to feed. Finally, landscaping will help attract hummingbirds. My landscaping rule of thumb is diversity, 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 and I like to incorporate lots of native plants into my backyard. Diversity will also attract a great insect diversity to your backyard, and hummingbirds need insects to supplement their nectar-rich diet. Furthermore, butterflies, sphinx moths, bees, and wasps are great to have in the backyard as well. Even though we don't want bees and wasps at our feeders, they are great to have in the backyard. Make certain you select plants that will be in bloom when hummingbirds are present in your area. This means late summer and early fall for most of us. Plants that I have successfully grown in eastern Nebraska and are favored by hummingbirds include butterfly bushes, coral red honeysuckle vines, perennials such as giant blue lobelia, cardinal flower, and royal catchfly, and Augustaceae, particularly the coronado red and tango varieties. Also mix in plenty of annuals. Salvias are a personal favorite, and I've had great luck with black and blue salvia and salvia cochineal. There are at least 2 varieties of salvia cochineal, the lady in red and the coral nymph variety. I have plenty of both. Salvia cochineal is also easily grown from seed, so it's a good idea to collect seed in the fall and save it over the winter and use it next year. Hummingbirds do wander on occasion, so if you have one in your backyard that you can't identify, let someone know. You may have a rarity or even a first state record. So hopefully these tips are useful and will help you attract these amazing little creatures to your backyard.